But I did bring these, Wutai's famous Dachao beans. Eat up. And here you go.
Let's go! GameNChick Gaming.
Hello again, my chickadees. GameNChick is back once again with another review. This is part 2 of my Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate and Intermission review. If you haven't already, please go back and check out my full in-depth review of Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate. It's pretty entertaining. So real quick before we get started, I want to give a huge thank you to everyone over at Square-Enix for providing me the game. It's so awesome. So now, enough talk, let's go! Final Fantasy VII Remake Intermission is an action-adventure game that spans over 2 chapters, giving you a deeper look into the character named Yuffie. Taking the high-octane action of Final Fantasy VII Remake, Square-Enix attempts to give us the story of what was happening during the time of Cloud and his crew's adventure, only this time from the perspective of the young and loud female ninja from the Wutai, Yuffie. But does this DLC do a good job at that, or does it just feel like a cash grab to continue to ride the FF7 cash cow train? Only one way to find out, so on to it! Play as Wutai elite ninja Yuffie as she infiltrates Midgar and conspires with Avalanche HQ to steal the ultimate materia from the Shinra Electric Power Company. In what starts out as a simple enough mission, it soon turns into something much more dark and devastating. Joined by her partner in crime Sonon, both he and Yuffie begin their mission to show Shinra that the Wutai and Avalanche are not to be trifled with, but they may have bit off more than they can chew. Gameplay. The adventure of Yuffie and Sonon takes place during the events of the Mako Reactor 5 bombing that saw Cloud, Tifa, and Barret attempt to destroy another reactor, just like they did to Mako Reactor 1. While Yuffie has just arrived in Midgar, Cloud has already fallen down into Eris Church, and Tifa and Barret are returning empty-handed without him. If you're looking for a deep, long-reaching story here with this DLC, then I think you may be a tad disappointed, since Intermission is more about how Yuffie plays and controls over anything else, at least at first. But that's not to say there's no story to be had. That couldn't be further from the truth. The narrative of her first arriving to Midgar and walking the same steps of the heroes of Final Fantasy VII Remake actually feels a bit surreal. When you first play FF7 Remake, your perspective was always from the viewpoint of Cloud's strife. But now here in Intermission, you're looking from the outside in on those events. And it's actually pretty crazy walking through the familiar streets of the slums and seeing things from a totally new vantage point, and noticing characters from the game standing around and talking to each other, like Biggs, Wedge, and Jessie, and being able to interact with them as someone not from the main cast is actually really cool. Although Jessie is a bit of an ass.
Thin kid, but do you mind? I'm not exactly in the mood. Not in the mood. Go bug literally anyone else.
Seriously, what the heck, Jessie? That was rude. But yeah, it reminded me of how I geeked out the first time I played Dragon Ball Xenoverse and had my created character interact with Goku and the other characters. It felt like I was at Disneyland or something. But you want to know how this game actually plays and how it holds up next to the main game, isn't that right? Well, you're going to love to know that it actually has better combat than in FF7 Remake, at least in my opinion. The core mechanics in Intermission are the same as they use in the base game of Remake for the most part, but with a much faster paced style and certain changes. Square still being your melee attack, pressing X to enter tactical mode and slow down time so that you can strategize what ability or spell to use next, upgrading weapon skill trees using AP points that you gain from battles in order to strengthen your character with special attributes that gain you higher HP, higher MP, additional materia slots, thievery that allows you to mug opponents in order to steal items off of them and even attack power. Much like in Remake, each character has multiple weapons to unlock and find, as well as upgrade however you wish to. Materia here in this title also remains unchanged. Find materia spread out through each area or buy some from the shop. However you acquire it, you will be able to equip it to the needs of yourself as Yuffie or Sonon. But this is where we come to a bit of a downside. Not a big one, but still a little bit of a downer. Previously, you were able to control multiple characters at once, up to 3 to be exact. But now here in Intermission, it's cut down to just one playable character, Yuffie herself. Sonon here in Intermission acts more as a companion character, in the sense that he's not playable, but he can still be given commands by pressing R2. And thankfully for all our sakes, His AI control is pretty competent, and he's actually a big helper rather than a pain in the neck, unlike some other games. Praise be to Yevon for that. Wait, that's the wrong game. Oops! I think the main takeaway from this combat style is actually the speed itself, thanks to the upgrade this game now has on the PlayStation 5. Now running at a smooth 60 FPS, all movements feel lightning quick, buttery smooth, and makes using her attack combinations that much more enjoyable. Using your weapon of the 4-point shuriken can feel like a bit of a strategy minigame if you treat it as such. For instance, certain enemies will be weak to specific elements such as fire, lightning, wind, etc. But using the weapon's elemental ninjutsu, you're able to switch to an attack element that the enemy is weak to, and hit it with a barrage of attacks from medium and long-range distances. This strategy also works by pressing triangle and throwing your giant shuriken long distances, and as soon as it makes contact with an enemy, hastily spam your square button to unleash various amounts of damage in quick succession. This will raise your ATB meter up extremely fast, which allows you to chain combination attacks like Art of War that unleashes a blistering melee attack to overwhelm your opponent, Windstorm, which gusts a large tornado of wind, and Elemental Jutsu. All of these in cooperation with each other can make combat feel so fast-paced, you just might disorient yourself. It feels so damn good. The great thing about this upgrade to the combat is that it actually shows the developers listen to us. We had gripes about the aerial combat not being up to par, considering a lot of enemies were flying monsters in Remake, and jumping up in that game just feels extremely clunky. But here, it feels so smooth and natural. We had also wished that characters would be able to do combo attacks that complemented each other's abilities. But sadly, this wasn't the case in Remake. Cloud, Tifa, Barret, and Aerith were not able to do attacks in conjunction with each other. But now in Intermission, when both you and Sonon have a space on your ATB slot filled, by pressing L2, you're able to charge a synchronization sequence that allows you to select Synergized Art of War and Synergized Windstorm. Both attacks in which Sonon actually participates in the attack with you, and you both do a double team move. Now that's what I'm talking about. I absolutely loved it. Please make this a main focal point in Remake Part 2. I need more of it in my life. But we'll just have to wait and see if that request actually becomes materialized. Okay, sorry. That's just about it for the combat, really. Linkable materia to raise magic and other stats, AP to bolster weapons, double-team cooperation attacks for faster and more intuitive combat. It seems like more of the same from the last game, but with the improvements to its frame rate, for fast gameplay, and an amazing fight style for Yuffie. Sometimes less is more. There are just enough tweaks and changes that make an already badass combat system even more addicting in itself. Now, I know you're wondering about what I said earlier about how there's not really any major story. Well, that's both a yes and no. You won't have a grand epic story like Remake, as that game ran 18 chapters, and this one only runs 2. Overall, this game is going to take about 4 to 10 hours to beat, depending on the content you complete in it, and that may seem like very little. However, if you are a fan of getting to know characters, small details that make up the world and Easter eggs of not only events that occurred in Remake, but teases of what's to come in Part 2 of the game's remake, which I will dive into at the end of this review, then you will be pleasantly surprised. What Remake got right was the characters' interactions and the small details that show the developers' love and affection towards this franchise, and they show the same amount of detail in Intermission as well, including keeping its continuity of Remake intact. For instance, as you run about the slums, if you try to enter Tifa's bar, the whispers blow you away. Why is this? Well, this is because in the original FF7 timeline, Yuffie did not meet the game till way later in the journey. You aren't supposed to meet them yet, and doing so now would completely change the course of history, which is what the whispers are trying to prevent. It's nothing big, but it's the subtle things that make me excited to see the devs thinking that far ahead. Yuffie herself is also bursting with life and energy. In the original FF7, she's a bit brash and even hyper at times, and thinks very highly of herself. Here in Intermission, she's roughly the same, a loud and over-the-top teenager who's ready to face any challenge and beat up everyone in her way. Her enthusiasm and joyful attitude is pretty infectious, and it made me smile a lot while playing. One of the funniest ongoing gags in the game is her handing out Wutai's world-famous Dachau beans. Except they're literally rock hard and nearly break everyone's jaw, just like the X-ray kills in Mortal Kombat. She's like, man, everyone is a wuss! The only person who can even eat them besides Yuffie is her new buddy Sonon, who she becomes very close to by the end of the game, like brother and sister. But once again, the developers knew we were going to get attached to these characters, just like we did for Biggs, Wedge, and Jessie. And what do they do to us? They make us feel the pain and suffering of both Yuffie and Sonon. Sonon is still getting over the trauma of his sister that was killed in front of him by Shinra, and now he wants revenge, and ends up sacrificing himself to save the life of Yuffie, who he now considers to be his sister. He will not let the same fate come for her. See folks, this is why you don't go deep ground with Nero and Weiss around. Bad things happen. Just look at how Dirge of Cerberus turned out. Big goof. But back on topic, this causes Yuffie to absolutely lose it and completely break down crying. As she's running away from Shinra HQ, still devastated at seeing her friend die, she arrives just in time to see the Sector 7 plate collapse down to thousands of people below. Witnessing the fire and the death, after what she just went through, she completely breaks down in a sorrowful, heartbreaking scream of pain. Good lord, this hits hard. The voice actress was so damn good that you really felt like she was feeling the same pain as the character. I was floored, and I'll admit it, I got teary-eyed, and it made me feel so damn bad for Yuffie. Her carefree spunk in that instance, now gone. Cut to some time later, and she's now off solo venturing into the world, and eventually will meet Cloud and crew on her next journey. Extra stuff. When you're done completing the main game story, you can take part in some pretty fun stuff, such as playing games of Fort Condor with Roush, the crazy soldier from Remake that fought Cloud, or the Shinra manager that was scared of Barret. Fort Condor is an attack and defend type of minigame that is a nice little throwback to the mission you take on in the original FF7, where you defend the Condor on top of Fort Condor from getting attacked. It's an amusing little game, and kind of addicting too. You're also able to go around the slums and find happy turtle flyers for extra goodies, and even complete VR missions once again for Chadley, where you fight Rama and gain the materia to summon him. So much to do after you're done. 10 hours will definitely not be enough playtime for this game, I guarantee it. Hell, even just standing around and listening to the music is fun. Where are we heading next? Okay, I was going to end the review there, but my brain since beating this game has been all over the place. I need somewhere to vent, and this is where it's going to be. The ending of this game shows our main group of Cloud, Aerith, Tifa, Red 13, and Barret on their way to Calm after they left Midgar at the end of Chapter 18. My opinion here is that Remake Part 2 is going to immediately pick up from Cloud's backstory from the original FF7, where he tells the gang his entire backstory of him and Sephiroth. However, I think it's going to jump straight into the action, with showing Cloud and Sephiroth in the truck preparing for their mission, or as they arrive in Cloud's hometown, Nibelheim. I feel this would be the best route, not only to give new players a glimpse of the history us longtime fans know about already, but it can also act as a tutorial to learn any new combat mechanics and techniques they wish to implement in this new installment as well. But the biggest thing here is that the cutscene takes place after their trudge towards Calm. We're greeted to a shot of Aerith's church, and who do we see? Zack Fair! He's alive and made it back to Aerith's church to see her. Both Zack and Aerith dated in the events of Crisis Core, and he's been gone around 5 years. In the original timeline, he dies and never makes it back to her, which was so painful to watch. But now in this time, he's alive. Finally, he's able to see her once more. So now he's pacing, wondering what he's going to say to her, and decides, screw it, I'm Zack Fair, I'll just be me. So excitedly, he pulls open the door and exclaims, I'm back! Only to find a church full of devastated civilians and crying women and children. He's shocked and utters out, Aerith? As the music drains out. On the surface, this might just look like, oh, she's just out with Cloud and company on their adventure, but that's where you're wrong. I feel something more traumatic has happened here. Aerith is not out on an adventure with Cloud, because in the timeline where she meets Cloud and the gang, Zack died and gave his hopes and dreams to Cloud, who then became a merc and kicked off the events of the original FF7. Without Zack's death, Cloud never became that person, and those events never happen. So where is she? My opinion, Aerith in this timeline is now dead. That's right, it's the good old butterfly effect. By defeating the Whispers, aka plot ghosts, they changed multiple timelines. The only thing keeping Aerith alive, which you see in Remake, are the plot ghosts, who save her many times from death due to it not being her fate yet. But now with the plot ghosts being defeated, they no longer exist. And back in the Zack Lives timeline, there are no plot ghosts to prevent her death. Save Aerith in one timeline, cause and effect as she's dead in another. Mind blown. Symbolism is also very strong in showing this, with the sad Aerith theme playing in her church, as well as the wilted flowers, which they never wilt as long as she's around and alive, but now they're dead or near death. How did she die if she did die? I'm not entirely sure yet. It wasn't by the Sector 7 platefall, since that has yet to take place. Guess we'll have to wait and see to find out, but it's definitely got me super excited about where we're going next. Overall, at the end of the day, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intermission offers up more questions than answers to where we're going next. But the one thing we truly do know is that the gameplay is as addicting as ever. Being able to use combination attacks with party members, or chain together multiple attacks with synergy as you throw your shuriken and use elemental jutsu for a juggling attack for a decent amount of damage, it never gets old. Sure, I wish the game could have been a little bit longer. Maybe some more side quests to do that take you around more areas of the slums, or giving us a playable second character, but overall those are just small gripes in the grand scheme of things, and I can't really think of anything I can say I legit hated or disliked about this DLC, other than the fact that they brought in Nero, Wise, and Deep Ground. Ugh, Dirge of Cerberus. Man, please don't make them a mainstay. They were the lowest parts of the compilation of the FF7 series, but I will embrace and play it no matter what, so it's whatever, Square Bear. So with all my wacky theories and thoughts out of the way, I guess you can say my verdict here is clear. GameNChick says bye now.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching! I really hope you enjoyed that review, and I look forward to bringing more to you in the coming future. For new people, feel free to hit that subscribe button and give this video a like or share, and for people already subscribed, make sure to hit that notification bell so that you do not miss out on any future content uploaded. Also, feel free to click on my other reviews linked above because they're kinda cool too, so give them a look. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch all you chickadees on the next one.